I am very, very excited, you guys, for part two. I don't have very many part twos, but this soul sister of mine, Malory Sullivan, I've known for over 20 years, 30-year education veteran, and I love her new name, Queenie. She is known as Queenie, way better than grandma, right, to her 3-month-old grandson. So I've known her as an educator, but during the pandemic, like many of us, we've transitioned, or especially if you're an educator, I think the challenges that we've experienced, I'm not in the classroom, but I've been a tutor for my students who had to navigate the pandemic and the new normal in education, the forever changing, I'm calling it, educational environment. So she is now a life coach, budding author of the next bestseller. Let me get this title right: Pursuing the Power of Your Purpose. 5 tips for overcoming distractions and fear to harnessing the riches in your passion. And Malory and I were just talking about, when you find your life's work, your passion, everything falls into place. But trusting and, the unpredictability, how you were saying, I asked her, do you plan to teach much longer, or what are your plans? So thank you so much, Sister Malory. My first question, of course, is how was the last semester of your pandemic teaching experience?
Well, my Oreo shaped buddy,
Yes.
Karen, thank you so much for allowing me to take up space on the internet with you. I just enjoyed talking to you. You are such an inspiration to me. An
Oh,
author 2 times over, someone who led the way. You are a trailblazer for me. You saw your vision and followed your passion years ago and came out of the classroom and started your own business. And now you're on TV shows and radio shows and you have your own, so I aspire to be where you are. So you are my shero lady. I just want to say
oh,
that.
thank you.
And okay, I'm sorry, I've got caught up in my own details of the introduction of you. So what was the question?
Describe the ending of this past year, because the first time I interviewed you, you were in the midst of it. And remember how we were
Yeah.
talking about, like, what do you expect? And the answer was, what? Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
we don't even know. So,
Right.
what did you find out? And did that influence you to follow your new passion? How did
Oh,
the experience as a teacher in the virtual, well, you actually had it virtually and in person? Did you have
sure.
both?
Yeah. So that's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to go here. The last time we talked, we were getting ready to start school again. So we
Mm-hmm.
opened the year completely remote, right?
Right.
So somewhere along the lines of first quarter of school, second quarter of school, third quarter of school, fourth quarter of school. Remember how I said things was kind of topsy turvy, upside down? It
Mm-hmm.
didn't stop. It did not stop. So
It
the
was a
fourth quarter,
continuing, it was like this.
so the fourth quarter of school, when everybody's gearing up to get ready for summer vacation, get ready for summer school, get ready for being out of school, we were gearing up to bring our kids back into the building. So that caused a little bit of anxiety for everyone because, of course, we're in a pandemic. At that point, the shots had started to be administered and all of that. So um, after we got the vaccinations under control and everybody felt kind of comfortable with that, it got better. It got so much better. We were on a hybrid where the kids came in for a portion of the day and then they got their box lunches and then they went home with their lunches and then they logged back on when they got home. So that was how we ended the year in a hybrid situation. And there was a lot of surveys that had gone out to the families and to the parents, and they were some wanted them to return, some of them didn't want them to return. And so that's kind of how it ended up. But this coming school year, we will be in 100%, of course, like many other school districts. And I will say, I think that when the kids came back, it made us realize how much we missed them. We told them that all the time when we saw them in class, but like to see them, but it was still weird because we couldn't hug them, we couldn't touch them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that was still kind of weird, but it was still good to see them, and it was good for them to see us. And we could tell, some of them were a little bit apprehensive because some of their friends didn't come back. They came back, but some of their friends didn't come back. So all in all, it was really good. But you know what else it did for us? It got us back to the main thing. When I was in Omaha, my pastor there used to say, let's keep the main thing. And so that's what the pandemic did for the kids. When they came back in the building, many of them, now, of course, there are going to be some rascals, but for the most part, they were there to get their work done. They did what they were supposed to do. They didn't give us a lot of lip back. There wasn't a lot of behaviors at all. There wasn't
Wow.
time for it. So they were there to get what they had to get. We were there to give them what they wanted, and then they went home. So it was business. It was all about business coming back because so many of them felt like that they had lost some time with us and all of that, and as did some of the teachers. But all in all, we ended on a very good note. I'm looking forward to this school year, um, seeing the students and just interacting with them and seeing what they learn, hearing about their experiences over the pandemic, because I'm sure they all have stories to tell. You know what I'm saying? So
Definitely. Do you think they're taking education possibly a little more serious than prior to pandemic? Because they realize, even over here, I think nationwide, they're feeling like they got ripped off. Not only was senior prom taken away, graduation, the activities, but the education itself, was totally, we didn't know how to navigate it. So do you think
mhm.
going back into the classroom, there's like a new appreciation?
I think for some of the students it will be. I think that you asked me in preparation for this interview, what were some of the things that I thought the pandemic changed about education.
Yes.
And one of the first thing that was on my list, excuse me, the first thing that was on my list was it illuminated our strengths and our weaknesses. And it forced us to either be a help or be a hindrance. So we were going to either be a part of the problem and stick it out and do what we needed to do, or we were going to gripe and complain and not do it and be resistant. And so that was one of the things, the major things I saw, because, I am not very tech savvy either. I used to be, but, I've gotten older. And so
Things have
technology
changed.
has changed.
Mhm.
And so I'm not as savvy as I used to be. So we had to really rely on one another. We really became a community that supported each other emotionally. There were times, of course, when my sister passed, I can remember a day, one of my colleagues, and I really believe, Karen, I'm a spiritual person. I really believe she was led by God to come and talk to me. She actually spoke the words that I needed to hear at that very moment, and she gave me so much comfort. She just embraced me, and I was emotional, and she said the right words to minister to me. And you know I think her personality, she would have done that had it not been a pandemic. But certainly her compassion was overwhelming, and those type of things only bond you closer. And I think that if, as staff members, as we bond and we're able to support each other, how much more are we going to be able to support our students when we're working in harmony together, right?
Right.
So that was another thing that the pandemic, how it changed education in my eyes. It allowed staff to bond more deeply, like I said. And then the technology piece, oh, that was
Oh my
huge.
gosh, you're telling me.
I learned a lot in the pandemic, about technology, different platforms, and how to maneuver and navigate on those platforms. When I didn't know, guess what? Some of the kids knew and they were able to. That was the other cool thing. The kids got a chance to step up, right? They got a chance to show us things that they knew, and we got a chance to learn from them at certain times. So it truly was a circle of learning from staff member to student, from student to parent, because many of my parents I would invite into my classroom, and I would show them, and I would have the student, okay, you show your mom, how do you get to your assignments? So they were actually teaching their parents. Parents were learning. It was a wonderful thing as I reflect on it. Going through it was challenging. It was extremely challenging because we had those outside forces that was, causing a lot of stress. And we had, different family things that was going on as well. And then we had, should I say it? I'm
What?
thinking it. So
Just say it. Say
we
it.
had a president that wasn't, I don't feel like he stepped up as a president. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to keep it high today. Okay. So there we go. But let's see. How has the pandemic changed education? Guess what I thought about? Maybe there may not be a need for inclement weather changes like snow days. We could still do assignments at home. So things like that, all kind of things. It has the potential to put a dent on attendance issues. If there's an issue where a parent can't send their students to school because X, Y, and Z, or they can't come because X, Y, and Z, they can still get their work done and be in attendance in a hybrid situation at home. So I think those types of things and those type of situations that has certain those hybrid situations aren't going anywhere. They're here to stay.
What it might change, like you said, forever. I had a couple of students who decided to stay in Japan for a couple of months, and they just had to log on at 5 a.m. or at least turn in assignments. Do you know that this year at the Mililani Middle School, there's no Chromebooks distributed because they're going back full time? So I thought it was interesting that they have the Google Classroom only to turn in work if they are not able to go to class physically. Right when I maneuver this, the Google Classroom and attached, videos and all that, it's only paper and pencil tasks.
Oh yeah.
Which seems like the old school days, because we just we're able to, okay, you got to attach this assignment, you have to watch this video, you have to take a photo of your math assignment and turn it in. But so that's a great summary of pandemic and the new normal. What I'd like to know, since this is your new up and coming passion and life work, how did you transition? In fact, how did you even decide to pursue this totally new career path?
Oh, okay. I'm so excited to talk about this. So my last thing on the list about how did education change the pandemic, it has caused educators to reevaluate their own commitments to the field of education. Like you said, we're kind of veterans in this field of profession of education. And so I have a lot to offer. And I didn't think about that, Karen, because, we have distractions in our life, right? We have distractions, we have setbacks, and, we have some high points and some low points. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of the backstory. Over the summer, I was kind of I went to go visit my daughter in Omaha, my daughter and my son-in-law. And I woke up one morning and I thought to myself, school's starting soon, and you're going back into the classroom. And, you are really being challenged by having this position, although I feel very blessed because I get a chance to actually have an impact on the future directly. So I'm still excited about that part of it, but there is something missing. Yes. And the something that's missing is I've done this for so long that I feel like I should be leveling up, doing something different, right? Not that, because people retire out of the classroom. That's some of the most fulfilling work for teachers who are still enthusiastic. So I still have that, but it has to work. I have to work harder to pull it up. And I feel like that's because I've kind of outgrown where I am
Well,
through
30
my
years,
experience.
Mallory.
I know
30
30
years.
years is a long time.
So you and
And
I both, though, you and I both have transitioned. I still, right after leaving the school that you and I taught at,
uh-huh,
I left and became still an educator, but private sector, right? Started
right.
Grain Brothers. And then during the pandemic, I decide, or shortly before the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be more something to do with the parents, right? The parenting coaching thing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that our paths cross yet again. I worked
Yes.
with Mallory at Kaleopu'u Elementary School when my 25-year-old was 3. And we became so close, sharing
Yes.
Oreo shakes, going to, who knows where. And then she left. And we were sad, but we continue to keep in touch. And so I thought recently, when you shared your career path, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, so many women, we're both in our 50s. We've decided, for us, it's education. And you're still educating. When you think about
Mm-hmm.
it, life
Absolutely.
coaches educate, they inspire, but your audience is different and your curriculum is different, but you're still wearing the teacher's hat in many ways, right?
Absolutely. And that's, so you're spot on, Karen. That's exactly what I had to resolve in my spirit, because I felt like I was kind of turning my back on the kids, but not really, because I put my time in. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
time, there's a circle of life. And so
Yes.
my circle is turning. And so I'm so excited about it. Being a former military spouse of 17 years, participating in of relocating my family every 3 years, making sure my children are okay, making sure my home was a home of peace and a place where we could all feel loved, right? And safe and secure. That did not afford me the luxury of honing in on something and becoming an expert at it in education. Here's why: because every 3 years, I was moving, going to a different state that had different guidelines and different expectations. And I had to operate in that. And I did it, with excellence, I did it. But it required a lot. It was a distraction in my career. After I obtained my master's degree in 2006, I was promoted to a district administrative position. So I did that for 10 years, and I learned a plethora of skills that I was able to put in my toolbox to be able to use in my life work. I had some awesome experiences in this role. I was able to be a summer school principal for 2 consecutive years. I was also able to work with and coach at-risk students to obtain their employment and keep it for the summer. So those are the type of things
Wow.
that I was used to. But then I had a distraction. I had to move to Illinois, which is my home state. I came here to be with my family and help take care of my mom as she's getting in her golden years. And so when I got here, I had the biggest distraction, and I am just now realizing that it's really not been a distraction. It's been part of the plan,
Yes.
because I feel like if I had come here and was able to move into the type of positions that I had come from, I really don't think I would have honed in on what I'm supposed to be doing as quickly. I think I would have,
Oh,
but not as
yeah.
quickly. Right. And so
Definitely.
now, to make a long story short, I ended up working as a substitute teacher. Right. I came from a district employee, a district administrator, and to a substitute teacher. And that was because of some certification issues that I was having to take a test that I could not pass. I took it over and over and I couldn't pass the test. So long story short of that, I, was not able to work in my field at my potential level because I didn't have a certification. Right. And so
Hmm.
that's yet another distraction. I not only did that, but I bought a house. I started to buy a house, right? And that's a blessing. But right in the middle of buying my house, guess what? I lost my job.
Don't you love these hidden blessings in
Right,
disguise?
right. So I lost my job. And so that's another distraction. But you know what? Each failure or each distraction, it caused me to be stronger. It
Yes.
caused me to reflect and look at myself and say to myself, you know what? You did it. Because you know what I did when I couldn't find a job anywhere? I started to Uber Eat. You ever heard of Uber Eat?
Yes, we do have that in
That's
here.
that's exactly what I did. I didn't have time to just sit and have a pity party. I had to start thinking, what can you do? And I said, God, I don't know what you have for me, but I know you didn't bring me this far to leave me. So I'm just going to move. I'm going to keep moving and wait on you to bring something my way. And he did. Woke me up out of my sleep one day. The principal of the school that I work at, she asked me, was I still looking for a job? And if I had passed the certification test. And I told her I had not. And she said, well, this is God. She said they changed a law here called the
Mm.
law of reciprocity. And if you still have a valid license from your prior state and it is a participating state, you will be reinstated right away. And that's exactly.
Wow.
And so I believe I say that because I said all of that to say this. When we are dealt with distractions and we're fearful about things, we are not going to operate in our optimum at our optimum level, right?
I
So we
totally
have to
believe
take
that.
those distractions and those fears and we have to put them aside and put on a new mind, because the only way that you're going to transform your life is to transform your mind. It starts in your mind.
Yes, the mindset will set your way, right? To either close doors or open doors. And when you keep, like you said, when you keep coming across those closed doors, that does not mean that you're a failure, but it kind of like pivots you in a new direction. And it sounded like that's what happened to you, right? You just said, well, I'm going to continue this teaching field. But my question is, how did you come up with, because you could have done any other new career path, right? How did
Right.
you end up in life coaching?
So I started with telling you I went to go visit my daughter.
Yes.
So I went to go visit her over the summer, this a month ago. And so when I woke up and I said I have to do something with my life, I'm gonna get my doctorate degree. And I was like, well, what are you gonna get your doctorate degree? Well, just find a program. So I get online and start finding the program. This is me, my spontaneous side. So I get on the computer, I look for, and I find this program. I was like, oh, and it's still in education, so I don't have, I can keep doing what I'm doing. And then I got finished with all of that, got all my financial aid all together. And you know what? The next day when I got home, that was the day I was getting on the plane to leave. And when I got home to send them some information that I needed to send them, I got on the computer and there was a lady on the computer on my timeline, and her name is Dr. Sonja Stribling, and she is phenomenal, phenomenal. She has imparted so much wisdom. But before I even get to that, I'm gonna answer your question. I saw her and I said, well, she had a really nice ad. I thought, let me see what she's all about. I read her bio. I was really impressed with her bio. She's had some wonderful accolades. You can go look her up, drsandra.com. And she was speaking to me. I took her 5-day boot camp. And once I finished that 5-day boot camp with her, I knew beyond any doubt that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my life work. She had a path that was laid out for me. And that's what I needed. I didn't know. I was uneasy about where I was in my career. I was at a crossroads. I didn't know my next move. So that's why I thought, okay, well, let me just go and get my doctorates, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't my next move. My next move was this. And God jilted me and said to me, don't pay another dime towards something that you are going to be distracted and you're not going to keep up with it. You're not going to have
Right.
the success you want, because that's not what you really want to do. This thing, Karen, when I tell you I'm up to 4 a.m, just learning and doing, getting ready for all the women that I'm going to be able to serve, I get so excited about it, because just like I have distractions, and I'm 56, Karen, I've gone through this for a long time of being uneasy. Something else I should be doing something else. what's going on? Just being frustrated. And if you're doing what you're supposed to do, that's not to say that you don't get frustrated, but it's a labor of love, and you're compelled to continue to get
Yes.
better at it so that you can help more people, right?
And then it's your passion. You
Right.
definitely, it's not like
Absolutely.
you don't even question whether you should pursue it, right?
That's right. That's right. So the pandemic afforded me the time to reflect. It afforded me the time to reflect on what I've gone through, what I've learned, and how I have been able to use the lessons that I've learned from my experiences to reach as many women, Karen, who I'm able to reach, and who are just like me, who are scared and who are distracted by things in their life, because we all have life issues. Life doesn't stop because we find our passion. But I believe once we have our passion and those distractions do come, we can maneuver them better. And if you can't, I would love for you guys to listen to tune into my webinar. I'm going to have a webinar on Thursday. So,
And how can they reach you?
they can reach me by email. You mean? How can
Yeah,
they
either
contact
way.
me? Sister Malory speaks at gmail.com. Sister Malory speaks at gmail.com. That's my email. You can reach me there. But I was wondering if I could.
You know what I'll do? I will put it on because next Thursday, right? Because this interview won't air till later, but during the weekend, what I can do is if you can tell me the date, the time, the link that they can register, I can put that out before the interview. And that way your information and, promoting this amazing webinar will be out there before your interview. My whole thing is all the moms out there, well, you don't really have to be a mom, but my audience is primarily parents. Like you said, life doesn't stop. We have single moms out there. We have widows. We have
Right.
people who maybe just it's not even a divorce situation, but maybe they had a long, relationship without a marriage. Or sometimes, I don't know if you've heard of parental alienation lately, where moms, no longer have contact with their adult kids. Their adult kids basically divorced them. And I met one mom who said it's been 3.5 years since she
Wow.
spoke with their children. So, despite all of these challenges, I know you have the top 5 tips, but what is one thing that you think can help someone who, those moments where, and I go through this too, where you lose faith and you wonder
Mm-hmm.
why is this happening to me? Why are things not working out? That, and like you and I are the same age, where we think, what is next? And remember how we were saying, like, what? And we
Mm-hmm.
go through that.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
go through that, doubting ourselves, like you said, the fear, the anxiety, especially if you suddenly, lost your significant other, or maybe you're going through a rough time with your adult children, or like you said, you either decide to retire, but you know that there's something missing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something like what do you recommend? Because sometimes it's like self-reflection, sometimes it's prayer, journaling. I mean, how can you get back on track when you feel like you fell off the track and you don't even know where the track is? You don't even know, you know. You're like, wait a minute, where is that track?
Railroad track was here somewhere. I
It
don't know.
was
Okay.
somewhere. It's like Harry Potter. You're going, 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 and all of a sudden you fall and you think, where did that track go?
Yeah, that's part of. I'm a spiritual person, and so in me coaching, um, I impart that part too. I don't leave that part out because that's a very important part of your success, right? So this, I'm going to give you the 5 tips now. The 5 tips is, first you got to ask yourself, what would I be doing, right? What would I be doing if I didn't have to worry about ability? I didn't have to worry about my money, and I didn't have to worry about my age. What would I be doing? If everything was perfect, what would I be doing? That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, you need to recognize the power, right? The power in having a positive mind.
Yes.
That is where I'm going to stop, right? You can tune into my webinar to get the rest of it, but that
I
part
love it.
is where you need to start. It doesn't matter what problem you're having, you can always control the situation. And I didn't know that, but you can. You can always control any situation you're in, even if it's only to adjust how you feel about the situation, right? You can
Definitely.
always look up. You can always look up. And if you give up hope, we don't want to ever give up
Well,
hope.
you know what though, like you said, when you start finding yourself giving up hope, then you really look at your mindset. And I've been learning, and I teach parents to teach your kids, do not believe every thought that enters your mind, because those negative thoughts, like you said, you have the power. You have the power to either let it influence you, you know, and my Brina, who's 25, she wrote one of the drawings in My Mom Has Got to Let Go, and it says anxiety and fear, they're in the, you know, your mind, but you do not have to give power to them. It's like, thank you,
That's
fear.
right.
Thank you, anxiety. You're there, but I am not going to include you in my, in the, you know, the part of your mind that, like you said, you have
And
the power.
here's the other thing, Karen, I agree with you. Here's the other thing. With every negative situation that happens in your life, everything happens for a reason, right? So
Yes.
you look at that situation and say to yourself, how can I learn from this? Instead of saying, why me? Oh no, oh gosh.
Right.
Why don't you look at the situation and say, oh my goodness, this is coming to me for a reason. What can I learn from this? How can I be stronger as a result of this? Who can I help as a result of going through this? And that's what I had to deal with my sister, right? Because I was like,
Yes.
we had made so many plans for this summer, and we just had so many things that we had talked about before she died. And so in my grieving process, I went through this period where I was just like, I'm not going to be able to make it, right? But then I thought to myself, first of all, your sister is better off than you are right now. She is resting, she is with her creator, and so she's way better off than you. Secondly, what did she teach you all those years that she was with you? She left you with some nuggets, some jewels, some gems that you can pass on to your children, you can pass on to your students, your sisters, your friends. She left you some valuable information. So then it caused me to go back and look at conversations we had and made me remember her in such an endearing way that it helped me through the grieving process. And so I would say to those parents who are going through something and they feel hopeless, instead of feeling hopeless, choose to invest in your own mindset and figure out, what am I supposed to learn here? How can I deal with this in a manner that would bring dignity to my faith, right? And then call on your faith, because that's the only way I get through things that's bigger than me. I can't call, if it's bigger than me, it's going to be bigger than somebody that's horizontally to me, right? My sister, my
Yes.
friends, all of that. I need to call on some help vertically. And so in those times, I call on my creator, I call on God, and I ask God, hey, I need for you to help me with this because I'm having a hard time with it. And he always, always, always does.
And it's the
May not
having
be the way
faith
I want
then.
him to help me sometime, but he always helps me.
Right. It's having faith. And so I think that's what, I mean, when my girls, you know, at 19 and 25, you want to fix their problem.
Sure.
You want to make sure that they're not experiencing pain, but I'm just realizing that what you just said is what I'm telling them. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's there to ask, what is the gift in this? It's like a horrible situation. You're not very happy. Does it build resilience? Or maybe that this is temporary. Everything in life is temporary. So I love how that it sounds like that's your message. And I can't wait for your webinar. What time is it on next
It's
Thursday?
going to be at, let me put my glasses on, child, because um, Thursday, July 29th at 7:30. It's going to be on Facebook Live.
7:30 p.m.
Yes.
Perfect. So 2:30 p.m. Hawaii
Central
time.
Standard Time. I'm
So
sorry.
2:30 p.m. It's kind of like what we just did today.
Yeah.
2:30 p.m. Hawaii time.
Yep.
Will you be sharing the recording after if someone can't do the live, or
Oh
how's it?
yeah. The live will be there. You Facebook Live is there.
Right.
So if they need to get to it, then they can just email me if they don't know how, and I can actually send it to them or share it with them or whatever. So yeah, and I'm going to send figure out a way to get this outline to you so that whoever wants to attend, they can have it. You know, they can have it before everybody else has it. If they're looking at this now and they want it, I can send it to them. But I'll send it to you and you can send it to them because I don't want
Okay.
to with the emails and all of that.
Sounds great. This was worth the wait. Sister Mallory and I were going to do this interview, and then unfortunately your sister had passed. But you know what? I think it was divine intervention. I think it was meant to be, because now I can be a part of you in your new journey. And
Yes.
we can talk about, I mean, we talked about how it ended. Well, it's not really ending, but we are in the transition of this new normal education. And I knew from the moment I met you that you were meant to be more than just a teacher in the classroom. I mean, being a principal, being,
You are kind for saying that, really.
I mean, I have memories of visiting Malory in the boonies. She was in the not the cubicle, what do you call that?
The portables.
The portables, and we had quite the adventurous life as special ed teachers. I was fully self-contained. Sister Malory provided me with respite.
You had that one angel of a student.
Yes, who injured me. And I thought, you know what? The principal doesn't know that I need to have these extra special meetings in a certain portable. But, fast forward all these decades, and we might not be able to enjoy in-person Oreo shakes, but Sister Malory is going to be visiting, right?
So excited, Karen.
2022. We're
Yes, yes.
finally going to be in person, none of this virtual stuff. But thank you so much, Sister Malory. I think
Thank
you are an
you.
inspiration. You are an inspiration, because all of us who are in this crossroads, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what our passion is, but you have reminded us that it just takes faith, awareness, looking up, and just praying for guidance, because guidance can come in so many different ways. And
Oh
apparently the
gosh, yes.
pandemic has provided us, I mean, there were a lot of bad things, but you know what? We did have hidden blessings, don't you
We
think?
did. We did. Hey, look, we are talking to each other. We survived the pandemic. There were many, many people that did not survive the pandemic, but we are here. And if we were spared for a reason. We have
Yes.
so much more living to do, so much teaching to do, so much sharing to do. So, hey, let's get to it. We have
Our
work to do.
journey continues.
That's
So,
right.
guys, have faith. I will put the details up for Sister Malory's webinar next Thursday. So, Hawaii time is 2:30 p.m. Central is at 7:30 p.m. And this is going to be an amazing, amazing webinar. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank
I will
you.
send this to you, and send me the link to the webinar, and I will help you promote it. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Friday evening.
Bye, Karen. You too.
Bye. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.